Well, good evening. We might get started because I don't want to keep you too late. My name's Andrew Grill. I've introduced myself to some of you before. My real job is I'm CEO of a company called Cred. We look at social media influence. I probably won't talk a lot about Cred tonight, but I want to talk about social media. I gave one of these talks about a month or so ago. It was very popular, so I think social media for everyone is a very interesting topic. What I'm not going to do tonight, though, is tell you how to get more followers or how to get famous. What I'd like to do is share some tips that I've learned over the years about how to really use social media for your personal and also for your company profile. I did mention to some people at the back of the room that I've been online since 1983, back when there were things called bulletin boards and dial-up modems, so I've been playing with this stuff for a while. And I suppose I really enjoy social because I'm very much an extrovert and I like talking about things that are happening online. So what I thought I'd do first of all is just let you know that all the links I'm going to talk about, all the websites I'm talking about tonight, this is the one thing, if you're going to write down anything, just write down this web address. It's lc.tl, that's T for Tango, L for Lima, .spl, social profile links. So all the sites I'm going to talk about tonight or visit will be on that as a bookmark, and I'll add to those, so there's no need to sort of scribble down notes. I suppose social media, I always talk about it being just like real life, and I suppose it's good to have a bit of a level set, because whether we're a brand or we're someone who's wanting to work on social media, we sometimes get sort of caught up on social media being this other channel we can just send messages out on. And I'm sure you're all familiar with a situation like this. We're at a conference, maybe we're having a drink after the session tonight, and we get talking, and there are two or three of us in a triangle talking, and then someone comes in and they have to wait until the right moment to be led into the conversation. That's social media, that's a conversation. I think what a lot of brands do, and we go back to our desk as marketers and we go, wow, Twitter channel, Facebook page, let's just get lots of messages out there, and we'll actually ask people what they're having for breakfast. We'll have a Facebook page that says, today is ... and you have to fill in the blanks, or you have to like something if you like red, or share something if you like blue. Last time I looked, humans don't do that. It's really, really strange to do that. So I think we have to really understand that when we're talking about social media and how we use it, it is very much like real life. And so if you think, I wouldn't say that to someone at a pub, it's probably not going to really resonate on social media. I see so many brands making those mistakes. One thing that really resonates and sort of shows this point is a 90-second video from a show the BBC had on a few months ago called The Revolution Will Be Televised. What I'll do is just show this to you, and it sort of is very self-explanatory.
Hi guys, hiya. Can I be your friend? Can I be your friend? What? Yeah. Yeah. All my friends have got like 1,300 friends. I've only got 99. Because it's cool to have a lot of friends. Isn't it good to have? Loads of friends, just need like 4 or 5 good friends. Do you want to maybe look at some photos of like me with my mates, and maybe you'd want to be my friend more? If I showed you some pictures of my life, it's really cool, you'd be a bit more interested. Sorry, I just poked you. Can I just poke you? Can I just poke you then? Can't poke you? Just go away. This is when all my really cool friends threw a party for me, and it was really cool, and I had a really good time, and I looked really good. This is like me at a cool party with pretty girls looking cool. This is my friends playing this really cool game. You don't show any of your photos to strangers. What's wrong with you? Can I poke you?
I love showing that, and I've shown it probably 30 or 40 times around the world, and everyone laughs at the same point. And it's a nervous laugh, because I think when people are watching, they're going, we're doing that. We're doing this in our brand or in our social media lives. So that's an advice of what not to do, but sometimes we fall into that. I thought I'd embarrass myself for a moment here. I actually pulled up my website this is 2001. I've actually had a website since 1994 when I was doing a course where they gave us a server and said play with it. And the great thing was we just got to play with it, but we also got to play and have very, very basic websites. In fact, it was the live website. You'd see this scrolling across the bottom, and probably some animated GIFs as well. But I suppose it's interesting where we come from. That was me playing with this back in 2001. But what's interesting is having had a website, so having had andrewgrill.com actually since 1999, it means that Google's been crawling my content for a long time. So one of the tips I'll give you is if you're registering a website, see if you can register it for a number of years, because Google actually takes into account how long a website's been registered for to see if it's legit. So if Google pings your site, it actually does a lookup to see that it was registered yesterday. It's probably not going to be something that's been there for a while. But if you actually look at what they call the who is, and I'll go through this in a minute, you can actually see who and when registered the website. You'll see this was registered in 1999 and it expires in 2016. So Google is going to say, this website's probably legit, it's been around for a while, and guess what? When I do a blog post, I then go and search for it on Google and it's already indexed it. So Google, for whatever reason, has been looking at my website continuously. So that's one of the tricks, to actually have your website registered for a long time. This is my first blog. I called it a weblog back then. It was actually on andrewgrill.net, and I was even talking about LinkedIn back in 2004. So I'm just showing you this to say I've been doing this for a little while, and I've been making mistakes, and I've been learning from it ever since. So I want to share some of those things with you tonight. What I found really interesting is Twitter now allow you to download your old tweets. If you go to the settings page, and I'll show you this in a minute, you can tick a box to say, send me my archived tweets. They won't go any sooner than January 2008. I was on Twitter in 2007, but you can see even back then my tweets were fairly mundane, relaxing at home on New Year's Day, updating my blog, get ready for a family walk. Given what I tweet these days, it's really interesting to look back and see what I was tweeting all those years ago. But I've got to tell you, when I joined Twitter in 2007, I thought it was the biggest waste of time. And I joined it kind of because I thought I had to, that other people I knew were on it, and I thought, well, let's see what all the fuss is. And you can see even a year later, I'm not really using it to its full potential. But now I'm on it, I'm kind of hooked. And my wife would say I'm addicted to Twitter. I'm always tweeting something, and she says, why are you doing this? Where are you tonight? Look at my Twitter feed, it'll say. So it's interesting how we grow over time. The first thing I want to do, I'm going to do a lot of sort of screen live stuff tonight. When we talk about our social media profile, in my day job, when I'm looking to connect with someone or find someone to talk to them about what I do or get them to talk somewhere, I'll Google them. So let's use me as a guinea pig, Andrew Grill. The other interesting thing is, with autocomplete, you'll actually see what Google has on you. So you can see my name is there, blog is there, I think sometimes the word Twitter is there. That in itself can be interesting when you're Googling someone or something as to what everyone else has actually put before you. So I'm going to hit go. What have we got here? Now this is, excuse me for not trying to, I'm not being vain, I'm just giving myself as an example. The first thing we see is some of my own content. Now I'm lucky that my name is fairly unique. There are about 5 or 6 Andrew Grills around the world. In fact, one of them stole my Facebook URL, because back when Facebook allowed you to have your name, I think it went live at 5 in the morning London time. I got up at 7 a.m. and the other Andrew Grill grabbed it. So what I've done is I've gone and registered andrewgrill.everything. So I can actually have my domain and protect that. But what's interesting also is look at the other things that Google picks up. It picks up my Twitter profile. It picks up my LinkedIn profile. So by having profiles that are established on other networks, their own search engine optimization is doing the work as well. So we can see there, so the first couple of other sites, we've got my blog there. We've got something in the Huffington Post that someone wrote. So if you're going to be doing a Google on me to see what I'm about and look at my social media profile, I'm pretty lucky that I think most times I own the front page, except for always the last one. Yes, Andrew's Grill and Bar. I can never get rid of these guys. They're always on the front page of Google. But what you can also do is there is a Google service called Google Webmaster. Who knows about Google Webmaster? A few people. So it's a free service. Most of these Google services are free. Let's actually go there now. And basically, if you own a website, you can actually add them. So here are the websites that I control. Let's look at londoncalling.co, which is my blog. andrewgrill.com, London Calling. So you basically put a bit of code on your website to prove that it's yours. It's fairly painless. Then what you can do is add what's called sitemaps to actually help Google find content. You can even see what are the search queries that people are using to get to your website. And I find this interesting. So I know that my name is always on the top of that Google search, because I can see actually where it's coming up. So we can see here on my blog, the word London Calling, because my blog is called London Calling, there have been lots of impressions. People have been searching for things here. What I find is that the more I know about what people are searching as an author, someone writing content, the more I can actually tailor that to see whether people are going to find it. So I find things like this from Google really, really interesting. So again, back to our Google search. I think it's really important that you actually know what Google thinks of you. No matter which website or web service you use, I think most people go to Google first to actually find things. And so if you want to have a good Google ranking, you actually want to make sure you're on as many platforms as possible. So I'm sure all of us Google ourselves from time to time, do a vanity Google search, but it's becoming more and more important to actually make sure you can be found. Now, you may not have noticed, but my little mugshot is here next to me, and I'll explain how that is there. Google Plus is still a fairly new social network, but the brilliant thing about Google Plus is it's linked into Google and Google Search. So if you have a Google Plus profile, and you actually put a bit of code on your website to link back to your Google Plus profile, when you search, Google is saying, well, I know who this is. This really is Andrew Grill, so I'm going to put his photo against that. So if I search for something else, if I search for Cred CEO, if I could type Cred CEO, I'm hoping I'm going to come up there. There we are. Again, I've come up again with my blog as well, and other content will come up there. So this again, if you're looking at a page like that, I think that I'm probably going to gravitate towards the link that has the photograph there, because it's probably legit and it's probably been authored by someone who I actually know. So there are ways you can actually make sure that Google Plus can be used to make sure you find the content on there as well. I'm going to go through the different platforms now. So I'm going to look at Twitter, LinkedIn, look at Google Plus as well. I'm assuming everyone's on all these platforms, so hands up. I'm not even going to cover Facebook tonight because that's a whole other world. Everyone's on Facebook, right? Yep. Who's not on Twitter? Can I ask why? Not to put you on the spot.
I feel like I'm such a late comer now that I'm almost scared to join.
Yeah.
I'm so kind of, I feel like so late. Obviously, I want to and I will.
Yes.
But I often wonder if I have enough interesting personal stuff to speak about.
Okay, and can I ask your colleague why you're not on Twitter as well? If not, same thing. So I get this a lot, and I remember I was in Melbourne once, I was talking to IBM, they were a client at the time, and one of the reasons I was there was to get more of their consultants onto Twitter, because what they were thinking, IBM was saying, is when people want to find consultants to work on a project, they're going to Google them. And if you're not found, if you don't have a profile, then people can't really work out whether you're worth putting on the project. So that's an often heard comment that, you know, I've got nothing interesting to say. So my trick for getting people onto Twitter, and I guarantee by the time you leave the building tonight you would have joined, two things. First of all, it's brand protection. I was very lucky that back in 2007 I grabbed Andrew Grill. No hyphen, no underscore, no 27, I've just got Andrew Grill. My daughter, who is 7 now, also has Madeline Grill, and my wife has a Twitter name that she'll never use. I kind of banked those. So that's one thing, brand protection for your personal brand and also your company brand. The second thing is, to actually understand this whole Twitter thing, I joined it and I was very passive. I just listened and I watched. You can see my tweets from all those years ago were pretty boring. No awards for any of these tweets here, but I just wanted to get a sense of how it worked. And when I joined Twitter, I found that 30 or 40 people that I knew were also on it, and I thought, well, that's useful information as well. So then the thing is, well, who do you follow? So I follow those people, and then over time, my first 200 followers were the hardest. No one wanted to follow me. Now I've got about 9,000. Which is, in the scheme of things, still not a lot, because I'm not Kim Kardashian or I'm not Justin Bieber, but organically over the last few years, that's a reasonable sort of number to get people. And, you know, there are two types of Twitter users. There are people that check their Twitter followers, and there are people that lie about it. Everyone wonders, why do people follow me? Actually, I used to ask, if someone would follow me, I'd tweet back and say, why did you follow me? What was it that I said or did? Or why did you unfollow me? So that's interesting. But to your point, I think get on there, even if it's a Twitter name that isn't exactly your name, at least you can then see how it's used. Because no matter what your role is, your job is, colleague at the back is a freelance journalist. She gets most of her stories from Twitter. Follow people that are interesting in your area. And you know, with my 9,000 followers, I have now a research team of 9,000 people that tweet interesting stuff. And I see that. So I don't read a lot of mainstream media. I'm getting it all through my Twitter feed. So there's never a time, you're never too early or too late to join. I would do it, one, for brand protection, secondly, to actually understand how it works. So let's actually go to dear old Twitter. The other thing I strongly urge you do if you have a Twitter account. Who has turned on two-factor authentication? I bet no one. You didn't even know it exists. Okay. Twitter gets hacked. How does Twitter get hacked? Because what happens is you get a link and it says, we need you to change your Twitter password. You click on it, and sometimes it's not actually Twitter. One of my friends got scanned, and it was not Twitter, it was Twitter, or some variant of that. It looked just like that. They logged in, and guess what? Rubbish was then being tweeted. If people tweet things like a DM saying, someone's talking about you, LOL, look at this picture, it's because their account has actually been compromised. So what Twitter have recently just announced is what's called two-factor authentication. The way you turn it on is when you're in Twitter here. In fact, we're going to see it work because I've been logged out, I've got to sign in again. So I'm going to sign in to Twitter, Andrew Grill. I haven't got my password, I'm not going to repeat my password. In fact, it doesn't matter anymore because of two-factor. Even if you have my password, it's useless. Now, what happens next? They have sent a text message to my phone, fingers crossed, which has a 6-digit code, which is a one-time code. So before I can log in, this is on the website. They've sent me a code. Let's hope they have. Text message, your Twitter login code. So I've got to type in the 6-digit code, 520663. It's irrelevant what the number is. It'll be a different number next time. That now... Don't you love it? That was from before. What I've found is that Twitter sometimes delay the tweets. So here's another one, 400627. Let's try that again. Right. So with two-factor, it means even if I gave you my Twitter password, unless you had my mobile phone and got the text, you could not log in. So I strongly encourage you to do that. I've now turned on for all of my Google services. They have a similar thing. I've turned it on for Dropbox, for Amazon. There are multiple services now that allow you to have what's called two-factor. And famously, a few months ago, the Associated Press had their Twitter feed hacked, and someone tweeted that Obama had been attacked at the White House, and the whole stock market dropped. So it actually is market affecting. So I would strongly urge you to do that. How you do that? Now we're logged in. We go up to the settings box here, and we go into settings, and then on the screen here, you've got the option that says two things. First of all, require personal information to reset my password. That's another hurdle for people hacking you. This is the one that you need to tick. Require verification code when I sign in. It will then enroll your mobile. It'll send a text to your mobile. You'll send a code back, and from then onwards, that mobile will be used for authentication. It's a bit like a banking dongle, a banking token. You're always going to have your mobile phone with you, and there are more and more services now that use this. So can't stress enough that you should turn on two-factor authentication. It means your account will be secure. So what I look for when I'm looking at anyone's Twitter account, looking at mine, obviously I know a bit about it, you can see what I've done to it. So you're able to personalise the screen. There's a great photograph taken at an event a few months ago, so that's my background. This is actually nearly 9 years old, this photograph. It was taken back in 2004. It's my headshot for everything, because I look a lot young with a lot more hair there. You've got 160 characters to talk about what you do. So in a short sentence, that's sometimes the hardest thing to write. What I do, there's a link there, and then my website. So when I look at someone's Twitter profile, they haven't got a bio. It's like, why? You've got a chance in 160 characters to tell the world why you're brilliant. And then the call to action is, you should actually have somewhere for them to go. Now, you might say, Andrew, I don't have a website, I don't have a blog. Well, there is a free service called about.me. About.me. And it allows you to actually set up a one-page site. And in fact, if we look at my About Me /Andrew Grill, it allows me to, you'll see the same photograph probably. Yep, same photograph. A bit about me, and it also allows me to link all of my social profiles. So down here, you can see links off to all of my different social profiles, and what they've done is allow you to actually click on those, and up will pop your latest tweets in a box and things like that. So it might be, if you don't have a blog or a website, you can take people from your Twitter page to an About Me page, and they can get a very quick sense of what you're about and what you've done, and links and those sort of things as well. So again, strongly recommend you give someone somewhere to go, because if I was looking at your Twitter page as a way to say, are you someone I should be talking to or doing business with, they're the things I'm looking for. Do you have something in your bio? Do you have somewhere I can click off to? And when the work I do in my real job is around influence, and often what we'll do, we might find someone that has a really high cred score, but they really have nowhere to go to. So, whoops, we need to go back to Twitter. So if I don't know where to go to, I don't know where your blog is or what you do, let's go back to my, my profile here, you really don't have an audience. So what I'm saying here is, this is where I want my audience to go. So for me, a good Twitter profile has a decent biography, a call to action, it's got the page fill. I mean, you can go to town here, you can make it look really pretty, you can have backgrounds and all those sort of things, but for me, that means that you really know what you're doing, and it gives someone who's watching that a real opportunity to find out all about you and whether you're actually going to click anywhere. Feel free to ask questions during the presentation as well. I'm happy to sort of do that as well. So who knows about all this stuff? You know, about your biography and links. Everyone's got those on there, or tonight going to go and put them on there. So I won't go too much deeper into Twitter. I sort of want to talk about your profile rather than what you're tweeting. We can talk about that in a moment. But again, what I'm looking for, you know, this is interesting as well. If I see people have got, let's say, 30,000 following and 30,000 followers, I get a bit suspicious, because don't tell anyone, but you can buy Twitter followers. You can actually, for $5 overnight, get 10,000 Twitter followers tomorrow. So sometimes people use the follower number as a proxy to say, I'm really, really influential. And as CEO of Cred, I see real time people trying to game the system. There's one particular guy who has 2,000 fake Twitter profiles that always tweet his name all day, every day, and they boost his score. And that, to him, he thinks that's a way to have people think he's really important and really influential. What I've done here is I've got 9,000 followers, but I'm only following about 1,800. Reason being is I can't read that many tweets. With 1,800 people in my stream, I'm only dipping in and dipping out. I'm never able to actually see everything. But I get suspicious when I see those numbers being about the same. It means they've just followed back everyone. Maybe it's just me, but I'm a little bit more selective. I actually want to, you know, enjoy what people are seeing. If you have got a lot of followers and want to get rid of them, there is a great website called Flitter Manager. Quickly find it. Manage Flitter, sorry. And there's a free version and a paid version. It actually allows you to sign in with your Twitter account. And then when you're in, it actually says, find people that are really noisy. Find people that haven't tweeted for a while. Find people with no photograph on their biography and follow them or unfollow them. So you can actually manage your Twitter profile using these third-party tools. And I find this one a really good one to use as well. So that's...
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
Are you going to talk about hashtags?
I can talk about hashtags now if you'd like. Who knows what a hashtag is and when you would use it? Hashtags are completely arbitrary. So if I wanted to, I could say my talk today is hashtag Hospital Club Social. Hashtag is a filing system. And it means that you can actually go and search for them. So no one owns a hashtag. When you see a hashtag on television from a brand, they've made that up and they're hoping and praying that no one else is going to actually hijack that. Now the best example of that is a few years ago, Waitrose had a program, a marketing campaign. They had some hashtag, and guess what? Everyone then said derogatory things about Waitrose using the hashtag. So I don't always advocate doing a lot of hashtag campaigns because they can get hijacked. But where we come into hashtags, let's look at, there was a conference in Milan today called SBF 13. I know that because I was watching the feed. So this really is a filing system to say, everyone that used the hashtag, I kind of want to be in a group with those people and I can then find those. So as I was saying, if I was presenting at a larger conference, I might have a special hashtag there, and I might have encouraged you to tweet and use that hashtag. It then means you can find people talking about that. You can do some analysis on it. What we do at Cred, while I've got the laptop open, we actually are able to rank people. So what I did today is I set up a leaderboard, and anyone using the SBF 13 hashtag, we actually ranked in real time. So we can see that Rob Howard here was being mentioned a lot today at the conference in Milan, and these people here were mentioning people a lot as well. So a hashtag can be a nice pivot to actually say people talking about a specific event or campaign or things like that. And you'll see it on TV. Britain's Got Talent has their own hashtag. A lot of ITV shows have their own hashtag. BBC use them as well. Now, the brands use them, one, to try and get people talking about the same event. Also, they do it to measure. Because if you're using a hashtag, it's very easy for companies like us to actually measure that and see what people are saying. So that's how you'd use hashtags. But again, they're completely arbitrary. No one owns a hashtag, and they can be sometimes very crazy. I would never do a hashtag that is that long, because if you're wanting to use a hashtag continuously through an event and it's really, really, really long, you're not going to really want to use that very much. So I would suggest that you use a hashtag that is fairly short. The challenge is the shorter the hashtag, the more likely someone's using it. So if I just look at SBF, for example, I bet you someone else is using SBF as a hashtag. I don't know any what it means, small business something, Small Business Friday. So the shorter the hashtag, the more likely is someone else is using it. It's a bit like a radio channel, the old CB radio, it's a bit like someone's on the channel. That's really a channel marker to say, I'm using this channel, I want other people to tune in and listen to that. Does that answer your question about hashtags? Yeah. What do you think a hashtag is?
I'm not really sure, and I wasn't more with Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really sure how, where, and when to use them.
Yeah. Similar sort of way, and Facebook are adding them as well, as is Google. It's kind of a filing system, and it's really a way to say, I want you to know that we're all talking about the same sort of thing.
So is there a way of, if you click on a hashtag,
Mm-hmm.
then what happens? You go to
it does a search. So if I actually click on the SBF there, what it then does is it goes to Twitter, and if it's been linked properly, and it will do a Twitter search based on the hash SBF. So it's kind of a search, a way of doing a search,
So
yeah.
it's a good idea to search it before you hashtag it.
Doesn't really matter. You can decide you want to use that, and then as people use it, you can click on it and see who is using it. Or you might actually want to see if someone is using it before you actually go and use it. So if you're about to do an event, you think, great, I'm going to use SBF, I would check to see that no one else is using it and it's somewhat unique. Yes, otherwise what happens is then you have this great leaderboard or something and everyone else it's very, very messy then. So I would say probably 3 letters and a couple of numbers would be good. 13 for 2013, and that's why they've used SBF 13, I think. That's about the right length, I think.
That makes it quite confusing because you don't know what it means. You know what it means.
I think what I would do is if I see it, I then look through, I do a search and see what people are talking about. And it might be on the event website. It says, here's the event hashtag. So Social Business Forum 2013, and our hashtag is this. In fact, I'm going to a social business thing next week. Let's look, socialbusinesssummit.com. I think on their website, is that it? Yep, so on the website, have they got the hashtag? There we go. So they've actually used that on the screen. They've said, yes, they're the tweets from that hashtag. So that's where an event organizer is saying, this is the hashtag we're going to use. And it's a good idea to promote that well ahead of the event. Again, do your research to make sure it's not likely to be used. The worst thing can happen, though, is on the same day, there's a conference with the same name somewhere else around the world, and then you've got everything, and that becomes a bit crazy. And never use more than one hashtag. I hate going to events and everyone's saying, what is the hashtag? Because there are people there that want to start the conversation and hashtag it, but they don't know what it is. So just as you would put the Wi-Fi code up on the screen, on the title screen, you would also put the hashtag and say, today's hashtag is this, Wi-Fi code is this, and then people know, right, that's what I'm using. That's the community code that we're all in the same room. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Spend a lot of time on Twitter. Off to my favourite, LinkedIn. Who here is not on LinkedIn? Why are you not on LinkedIn? Sorry to put people on the spot.
Can I say something about LinkedIn?
You can say anything you like about LinkedIn.
Really ugly.
Yeah, for a 10-year-old website it is, isn't it?
Horrible to look at.
Yeah, what don't you like about it? Just the way it's laid out, or can't read it? So I joined LinkedIn, my LinkedIn story, I joined it in 2004, year after it joined, it started, it's now 10 years old. The reason I joined it was my boss at the time sent me an email saying you should join LinkedIn. What is LinkedIn? And I was a bit skeptical because back then the big thing was click here to upload all of your email contacts and we'll see who else is there. I thought, is this a scam? And I did it, fingers crossed, and I found that 33 other people were also on it. But those 33 people back in 2004 were the sort of people that should have been on it. So I kind of joined it then. Now LinkedIn is really used to promote you in a business sense. It's not about really a fantastic conversation, it's a CV online. What I find most interesting though is my one joy, or many joys during the day, is to actually do what's called view my profile. So I've defaulted here to my view my profile. I think you have to have a premium account. I'm not sure whether you get all this on the basic account. It basically says who has looked at your profile. So here are people, this is from today, that have actually looked at my profile. And I find it kind of funny to reverse stalk people to find out why they're looking at me. And I can actually tell you some of these. Now, this guy here, David Pittman, has been sending me lots of junk mail through my letterbox, and I wrote to him to stop, and I found him on LinkedIn, and he looked at me and I looked at him. He won't know it's me though, because I didn't put my name on. That's why he looked at me. I'm not sure why these people have looked at me. They're probably just stalking me. Some people here I think I've done business with, but it's really interesting because one of the way I do business digitally is if I want to find someone, I'll look at them on LinkedIn, and my profile is set to open where it actually says my full name. So let me just show you that. On LinkedIn, if you've got this feature, because again, it's not for everyone, I think I've got to move the screen down a bit. In your settings, it actually allows you, I may have to reduce my screen, just bear with me. It allows you to say what you look like when you're looking for someone else. So if I look in my settings here, privacy and settings, and I've got to log in. What it allows you to do is say whether, see what others see. Yes, see what others see when you've viewed your profile. So at the moment, I could have chosen between anonymous, pretty boring, someone in marketing advertising, or me. So I've set it to me because I want you to know I've looked at your profile. Don't you like my headshot there? No? So why I've done that is I want people to know I'm looking at them, because what I then do is find them on Twitter and I follow them. So they get an indication to say I've watched their profile. They get a follow on Twitter, and if I call them, they're kind of expecting my call. And they know I've done some research about who they are. And in reverse, I actually welcome people to look at my profile and follow me. And when they call me, they then go, well, I know I expected the call. So I kind of use it as an electronic tap on the shoulder to say, I'm looking at your profile, I'm doing my research, I really want to know more about you, and when I call you, I know a bit more about you. So that's how I kind of use that. But the view my profile thing I find really interesting. Now, LinkedIn recently has changed things a bit where you actually can add lots of rich content to your profile. So again, I'm using mine because I know what I look like. This is my LinkedIn profile. It is pretty ugly, I'll give you that. When you go down the screen and actually look at, sorry, I'm not looking at my profile, where are we? Profile, my profile. Okay, this is what people see when they're looking at me. So, summary, nice headshot there, a bit about me as well. Some endorsements are there. My opening statement is what I do. Now, LinkedIn allows you to put rich media there. These are actually videos. You can notice I'm videoing myself tonight, not because I'm vain, it's because people who can't be here want to hear what I'm saying. But I then have generated some more content. So whenever I do a presentation, I'm videoing it, I can then put it onto LinkedIn. It can actually be not just a video, it can be a piece of content, it can be a photograph. And if I click this was something we did a few weeks ago, it actually plays in LinkedIn. So you can now watch the video within LinkedIn. So what I'm trying to do here is give people a view of, if they're looking to find out who I am and what I do, I'm giving them enough content to see that. And so what I've tried to do is, for every one of my roles here, I've got content, even way back in 1999, a very young looking and much more hair Andrew Grill there. I was doing a webcast back on my profile from a job back in 1999. So, yes, question?
You just scrolled over the skills and expertise section.
Yes.
I'm always wondering whether people actually take that serious. Because for me, that's just kind of pitch for cat thing. Everybody's confirming everything, and
yeah.
I saw very ridiculous kind of skills.
I agree with you. So just to explain what this is, and also what I've done is I've actually moved this around. You can move these sections up. It is a bit tit for tat, because if you look at someone on LinkedIn, let's look at Sue Walter, who's the CEO here. So Sue is the CEO of the club. Let's look at her profile. Now immediately what it's going to do, when her profile loads, you can see I'm the first degree, it says, right, let's endorse Sue. Now LinkedIn are trying this because they want people to use the site and do that. But I wish I had, in Sue's case it's not here, but I wish I sometimes had a does not know about, because sometimes I would not like to award it. Someone says they know all about social media and I'd like to say no they don't, but you can't do that, so I just don't endorse them. So I think you're right, there is a bit of a tit for tat. People want to endorse each other, so I do take it with a grain of salt. If anything, on my profile, it's the numbers. So people think I know a lot about this and not so much about that. In a way, it's just an indication. But am I going to go and bank the farm on having 99 plus things on digital strategy? No. But I'm heartened that the people that have given me a click there probably think I know something about it. But I do agree with you that this is a bit of vanity. LinkedIn have only done it fairly recently, but it does drive traffic, because when you go on there, you spend a lot longer on the site. So they're doing their job and getting you to interact with it. But please feel that you don't have to endorse me. But the real endorsements are when people actually give you a recommendation. I think there's less sort of trickery there. This is someone, I was very flattered. I got a really nice endorsement from a conference I spoke at. I didn't ask for it. It came through in the mail last night. Wow, I'm going to put that on my profile because it's a really nice endorsement. I have seen people, though, do things when they're about to move jobs. I see lots of requests for endorsements. They're clearly looking for a new job and things like that. So LinkedIn can be useful for that. But I suppose the reason to show you this and explain how I've set my profile out is that LinkedIn allows you to do all these things. So if you've got the content, why not put it up there to actually show what you've done and give some sense you've got a body of work you can show. There was even where I didn't have any videos, there is some, where are we? There was a newspaper article from whenever I did something, so I put that up there as well. So it really just gives you a chance to really show off what you've done in your body of work. So given LinkedIn allow you to do that, I would encourage you to use all the different things you've got. Is everyone aware of those sort of things on LinkedIn? Is this new, what I'm talking about? A lot of people haven't seen this yet. I did hear from a friend of mine, he had some problems actually activating this. What you do, just to show you how you would add those things, you would go into your Edit Profile section. So here you would click Edit Profile, and then it will allow you to lay out the page. So here we go, where you see skills and expertise, where you see ads. So here we can actually add content, upload file, or add a link. And if you did that, it auto-recognises things like Vimeo and YouTube and those sort of things, and it will actually put them in the right format. So it does a great job for you as well. So I find that quite useful. But again, I've been playing with this, so I wanted to see how you can actually use LinkedIn and do all those sort of things. Any other questions about LinkedIn, apart from it being ugly? Yes?
I just wonder, all these things, when are you supposed to do any bloody work?
That's a really good question.
Like, who does all this stuff? Like, is it
Yeah.
supposed to be you? Because I haven't got the time to do
Yeah.
Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, well, some of it is, good weekends work and doing things, and I used to blog every couple of days. Now I might blog once a month because it's becoming really hard. In fact, one way I know that someone isn't busy is if they're doing lots of stuff and they're always tweeting. Either it's programmed or they really have nothing to do. So that sometimes can be a thing as well. But I think what you've got to do, and it's a good point, is pick the ones you want to actually maintain. If you haven't got time to do all this, set it up. LinkedIn is a bit easier because you can kind of set and forget. Unless you're changing jobs every 5 minutes, you can set and forget, and it's there. I wouldn't feel compelled to have to tweet all the time. I would have the account to know what's going on, but I wouldn't feel like you've got to do it all the time. And again, if you've got a blog, you can't just have a blog and then leave it because then people think it hasn't been updated. What I have a laugh about is, I'll see someone's profile, they're head of digital, there's a link to their blog, and the last blog post was in 2011. Either means they're really busy in their new job, or they don't really have anything to say. And it's kind of telling sometimes that there is a gap in content. So sometimes it's a bad thing to have a blog or something that isn't actually kept. It's like having the grass grow and not cut it.
can I ask, I think it's going back to Twitter. I'm
Yes.
not sure, but if you want to get in touch with a company,
Mhm.
whereas in the old days you would email them,
Yep.
and you might not hear back.
Mhm.
If you tweet them,
Yes.
and they're quite a big company, are they likely to tweet back? Or
Depends.
do you use it like you used to email?
Yes. So good question, and a lovely segue to my passion point about Twitter and everything else is try and see what you can find, because most companies now have seen that Twitter is a real big mainstream product. Everyone's using it, and they've got dedicated people to do that. So the example is I never call centres unless I have to. I tweet. So my relationship with Vodafone, with BT, with EE and others is all through Twitter. Now, I do get a response, and I'll give you a quick example. I told the guys in the back of the room I wasn't going to talk about this, but I will. Back last October, I wanted to be the first person to get the 4G service from EE. So I went along to the EE shop on Kensington High Street, and cut a long story short, because there's a blog post about it, which I'll show you in a second, they sent me the wrong SIM card, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So what I did was I called the call centre. They said, no, wait 24 hours. I tweeted about it. In fact, let me show you the tweet I sent.
You've got loads of followers and everyone can see your complaint.
That's part of it. In fact, let's just do this. If I type EE fail into Google, let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. The #1 link is my blog post about EE. To finish the story off quickly, this iPad was given to me by EE for free, plus 12 months of 4G service, because I complained. Now, I need to give some context to the story. This was nothing to do with my real job at Cred. Yes, I've got a lot of followers, but also I know what I'm doing. And what happened was really interesting. Let's look at the blog post. So I think I was pretty fair. I had 15 phone interactions and a few Twitter interactions. In fact, there are quite a few blog posts about EE. There's, let's just look at the main one, lc.tl EE fail. So what happened was EEPR got in touch with me. So I tweeted that, I've got no service. In fact, the tweet that really set this off, I've actually embedded here. Where are we? It's a long story. It's on the link that I've sent out as well. So I tweeted, hey EE, so want to go to 4G, but have been at 0G since yesterday. And the photograph was of my MiFi with no service. The response I got from them was, at Andrew Gould, if you tweet Orange Helpers or T-Mobile Help, we'll look into it for you. What they were saying is, we have no idea who you are. We have no idea you're a brand new EE business customer, and I have no relationship with those guys. So when I wrote the blog post, the PR team picked up. I asked to meet the chief executive, Olaf Swanty, and I got into Paddington, and I said, we can't get you to meet Olaf. He's next door at a board meeting talking about your blog post, because the Telegraph had covered it. And the Telegraph covered it with a link to the blog post. And so what I found was, this was on a Saturday night that I posted the blog post. By Monday morning, the Telegraph had picked it up. The type of blog traffic from the weekend to Monday changed from friends of mine to large companies seeing whether they were going to go to 4G. So to your question, this absolutely worked. It really gave them the bloody nose in that they found that they had some real problems. So what happened was, the issue was the SIM card in the box, there was a process issue. They put the wrong SIM card in the box. If it hadn't been me or no one had reported it, it would have gone on for weeks and lots of other people would have had problems and probably not done what I did. I helped fix the service process issue in 3 days. So I'm proud that I did that. I also got EE to go from 2 people managing their Twitter feed to 50. And I got them to really care about social as a channel. So yeah, I got a free iPad out of it as well, which I'm very happy about. But it's a great case study and it answers your question. Are they listening? Yes, they are.
Do you think that's because you've got lots of followers?
Not necessarily. In fact, it was the blog post more than anything, because having lots of followers meant lots of people saw the blog post. There are 20,000 people that have actually looked at the blog post. And it got into the Telegraph. And then what happened a bit later on, and someone actually had seen this, months later I was in Sweden at a client, and Sky News rang up and said, we're doing a story on the 4G auction. We found your blog post. Can you be a pundit and talk about the 4G auction? And I got on Sky News. So from some guy who had a SIM service issue that you've never met, there I am all over. And it's a gift that keeps giving. This blog post is the most popular blog post every day on my blog. People keep going on there because they keep talking about EE failures. Now, what's interesting is I've become an influencer without knowing it. But my own personal brand is now at risk. Because even though I've got a nice free iPad and I talk about EE, they're not perfect. In fact, a few months ago they were at a conference and the people from EE were at a conference saying that social was at the heart of their 4G launch. And I tweeted, no, it wasn't. Because I wasn't going to stand for someone saying something that was clearly wrong. So I will defend them when they're doing great things like fast 4G, but if they actually tell porkies, I'll actually call them out. So even though I'm an influencer, I have my own personal brand, and you want to believe me when I can actually say it's not all roses and skittles with EE. But to answer your question, they're listening. They're not quite sure what to do yet because people like me are tweeting back and causing them some pain. They're very lucky that the person they did tweet, that did get involved, knows the whole story. I could have been a really feisty blogger and caused them a lot of pain, but I know how it works, and I was keen to have them actually, fix the solution. So what we did was we actually found 4 other people that are advocates. So there are 5 of us that have a device, and all EE have said is that once a month we want you to tweet or blog about your experience, good or bad. And to their credit, they've taken a real risk with us. So, they've learned from this, and it's been a really good learning curve for them. Now, what I bet you won't see is the other 4 networks, but when they launch their 4G, I bet you they will not learn from this and not actually have advocates and launch and have problems and have people like me saying, hey, it doesn't work. So, a really interesting lesson of how social can work. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I also had you blog. What website do you blog?
So, good question. We're skipping ahead, but I have a blog called London Calling, londoncalling.co. Why not .com? Because someone else had .com, and I got .co back in 2010. It's run on WordPress, and I really recommend WordPress. It's open source. There are 2 ways you can blog on WordPress. One is on WordPress.com, where you actually have this is my blog.wordpress.com. This is what's called self-hosted. So I'm very fortunate that a web hosting company, I should mention them given they sponsor me, called Web Hosting Buzz, there they are, they have given me a server. So I have my own dedicated server, I run everything off, which is fantastic. So I'm able to actually go and buy londoncalling.co. The code for WordPress is free, wordpress.org, it's completely free. You then put it onto a server and you can then start blogging with that. So it has an interface behind the scenes where I can actually upload the content and put links and photographs there, and then it appears like this. So does that answer your question about where I blog? And maybe not how I blog, but where I blog?
I think I was thinking more about where to start.
I have an opinion. So another good question. I've been in London, as you can hear, not a native. I've been here 7 years. So I moved here in 2006 and knew no one, and I had to get known. So a few years in, I started blogging about things that meant things to me, and I was involved in mobile space, and so I started blogging about mobile. And I had an opinion. And I made sure that what I was writing about was my own original content, and people were listening to me, and I'm clearly not an introvert. I have an opinion. So I blogged about things that I knew about and was passionate about. And I found that the more I blogged, the more people commented. And the first time I went to a conference and I said, I'm Andrew Grill, London Calling, oh, I read that blog. It was like, I was so flattered, and I'm still flattered. I don't get any money for this. It's a love that I do. But for a blogger to actually have someone recognise their work, it's amazing. It's a bit like an author seeing what you've written. So it was really about what I'm excited about. So my last blog post was actually about a survey that Optus in Australia had released. In fact, that's this follow-up. the survey said that only 4% of people in Australia use social media to talk back to companies. And I thought, that's crazy. So I did some research and I blogged about it and I read the report. So it was really my opinion about the report. That was the content of it. But I blog about lots of things, but I think you've got to blog about things that aren't too random, otherwise people don't know what you stand for. So I generally blog about social media, social business and technology. So you won't find me blogging about fashion, clearly, or new trends in travel. I think what you've got to do, thank you, check shirts, my wife dresses me, thank you. But what I do is I blog about things that I'm really passionate about, and it's self-fulfilling. So when people read this, guess what happens? They ring up and they say, we like what you said, can you come and speak at a conference? And so then I have a whole section on my speaking, and so it sort of fills itself. But you've got to start somewhere, and pick a blog with a decent name and a decent domain name. The other thing about domain names is you can pick anything you like. There's a great website called Gandhi.net that I get all my domains through. So I couldn't get londoncalling.com. I got .co. So this website actually allows you to look at, let's look at, someone yell at a brand or a name. Sorry, what was your name? What's your first name? Yeah. How do you spell that?
Letty.
Sorry, L-E... Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find all the Letty dots that we can get. So let's assume you want to set up your own website. What this is going to do is find all the different country extensions, and it's quite interesting sometimes. So it's now found. What I'm going to do is also, so you could have any one of these. You could have Letty.af, Letty.ag, Letty. It actually gives you, hundreds of choices, and also has the prices. In fact, someone's got Letty.biz already. How dare they? Someone's got Letty.co. .co.uk. So you can actually find one of these, and I would obviously choose one of the cheaper ones. So this one, for example, is Belgium. BZ is Belize or something. But you can actually find one, and it means you can, right, that's mine.
Who are you paying?
Say,
Who are you paying?
this is a domain registrar. This company would actually, on your behalf, register it. So you would then have the domain name through them, and you'd have it for a period of a year or 2 years or whatever. Yeah, I use them all. I have most of my domains with them. Yeah, they're based...
Worry about just going onto a random site.
Yeah. So I found out about these guys through a recommendation on social media. Who do you recommend? There are 3 or 4 that I use a lot. And again, if you came to me and say, which one would you use? I would say, I use these guys. I've had no problems. It's great interface and everything else. And you get to control this. So what happens behind the scenes is that you can actually control where your email is and those. And the other thing I would give you as some advice. So let's assume Letty, you've actually got Letty.bz. That's one you've bought. Do you have a Gmail account?
No.
What's your main email? What's the suffix that you use? Hotmail. Okay. Don't use Hotmail. Don't use Gmail. That is not your brand. That is Microsoft's brand. Letty is your brand. So what I'd encourage you to do is if you buy a domain name, put your email on that, put your website on that. That's what I've done. So I've had andrewgrill.com since 1999. So guess what? My email address is part of andrewgrill.com. It's my brand. I'm probably never going to change my name. So I'm lucky. Those of you that do change your name, it may be a bit more difficult. But it means then that when you get an email from me, a personal email from me, it's got my brand in it. What I've also done is if you ever see me tweet, I'll actually tweet from a domain that is lc.tl. In fact, the list of links tonight was lc.tl/something. That's my brand. London Calling is my blog, so I've gone and bought lc.tl. So whenever you see me tweet anything with a link, it's from my brand. And guess what? I actually have full access to all the stats. So if I go to lc.tl/admin, and I show this trick to brands and they go, can we do this? You've all heard of Bitly. When you see Bitly links, this is like Bitly, but it means you own it. So if Bitly ever went out of business, all of your links would go with it. So what I've got here, in fact, this is the link that I've asked you to go to, SPL. And we've had one person's clicked on it. I get all the stats. Let's look at something a bit more common. So what I can do here is actually look at all statistics. One of these links, lc.tl/c, is my contact page. It actually shows all time I've had 10,000 clicks on that particular link. I own that analytics. I own all the traffic. So if someone goes out of business, I have all of that. So while there's nothing against having a Hotmail address, and in fact on Hotmail and Gmail you can divert it. So if you bought Letty.biz, you could be sending from Letty.biz, all the people that still know you have your Hotmail address can be diverted through to your lead.biz, and eventually people know that that is your domain and your brand. So when we're talking about personal branding on social, I'm a strong advocate, buy your own brand. If you get a .co.uk through Gandhi for £4 a year, you get free email on there. So for a cup of coffee, you can actually have your own brand and your own domain and your own email system. And you can actually use Gmail as well as the interface. There are ways to actually do it through Gmail. So I'm a strong advocate of having your own brand because that's who you are. And then when you put it on your LinkedIn profile and your Twitter profile, people keep seeing your brand and they get to know what you're doing. Question?
What system is this?
This is actually called, it's an open source thing called URLs. And not surprisingly, there's a whole blog post on this, lc.tl/URL. There's a guy in France who's developed it, so it's completely free. All you need is a server, and this will actually explain exactly how to do it. So you get a domain name, and then you have full control over all of those links. Because if you use Bitly, Bitly's so popular, if you wanted to have Bitly/Andrew, I guarantee someone's got it. Here's a tip for you. If you get a link, let's see who's got Bitly.Andrew, and you put a plus after that, the plus will actually give you the statistics. So if you see a brand with a campaign in a Bitly, if you want to know if it's been successful, if you put a plus after it, it actually gives you the statistics page. No one knows this. So this person has had not many clicks. This is who actually set it up and those sort of things when it was created. That's probably a bad one. Let's look at one of mine. AD, one I did a long time ago, 2020. So here we go. It's had 1,300 clicks or whatever. So you can actually spy on brands' campaigns to see they've been successful by putting a plus after the Bitly. But my point is here, that bitly.com/AD2020, that's gone. If I wanted to use that, it's gone. But if you have your own system, you can actually have whatever you like on top of that. And I can, obviously I'm whizzing through stuff, but I'm happy to sit down with you and walk you through it. I'm trying to share everything I've done, all of my tips and tricks, because it's worked for me. I'm hoping it's going to work for you as well. Question, sir? Very different. So Bitly is a shortener. So Google Analytics tells you how many people have gone onto your website and clicked it, generally, just going there randomly. Bitly says how many people have come through that link. So they'll come through the link and go to the website. Google Analytics will show you what's on the website in terms of clicks. Bitly will show you who's come through. Now, while we're talking analytics, my favourite analytics is a website called Clicky, clicky.com. There's a free version. It is 4 million times better than Google Analytics. Why? It does real time. So right now I can actually see if there's someone live on my website. There is no one right now. I've had 221 clicks today. And Clicky allows you to go deep inside and actually see, it's kind of creepy sometimes, who's been looking at your content, what they've been looking at, what device they've come in from, and what company they've come in from. So here you can see at 2018, someone on Orange Mobile came in, one action. What did they do? On my website, they looked at, let's have a look. They actually came in from an iPad on Safari 6, and what did they look at? They looked at, in fact, was someone here probably looking at that EE thing. So why do I have this? Because as a content writer, I want to know if the content I'm producing is actually resonating. So when I published that EE blog post back in October last year, I had 72 people on the website at once. It was just going crazy. I can actually tell what was really popular in terms of content. So as I say, this Clicky.com, there's a free version. I pay about $60 a year for all of my sites. It's quite inexpensive. But I think it's better than Google Analytics because it really goes beyond what Google gives you and gives you real time and shows you who's looking at the site and those sort of things. So everything I do, I put a link on there so I can track it all. So I know what's actually going on and see if my campaign's been effective. We're almost running out of time. I don't want to keep you guys too long. So any other questions before we do a bit more? Yes? Yeah, if it's topical. So I think why my blog post at the time resonated, it was on a weekend, people were sort of looking at things. It was about something that had just been launched. So it was about a 4G network that had just been launched. And my profile in the industry is that I know about techie stuff. So if I'm playing with something and I say it's bad, that's probably worth a look. So it's topical. But sometimes just commenting on something if you have an opinion. So right now, let's pick a random example. All of the spy accusations about the US government, about all the data that's being shared around there. I haven't had time to blog about it, but that would make a great blog post to say, well, here's my view on this. Because everyone knows about it and everyone's looking for an opinion. And the journalists in the room, itching for stories. Journalists use Twitter all day to find leads because it's becoming harder for people ringing them up. And they will search all day. A good mate of mine gets all of his sources through Twitter. In fact, I was stuck in Terminal 4 one day and I took some photographs and tweeted them. He said, quick, delete them. I want to put them on the front page of the Telegraph. He was getting all of these scoops from me. So that's something that's topical, it's interesting. And timing. The other thing is the time you tweet it. So I have a global audience. If I want to tweet to the West Coast, I'll wait till 5 or 6 o'clock of an evening here so that it's in the morning their time. If I want to get to an Australian audience, I'll do it late at night so that they're waking up to it. So it also depends what time you tweet sometimes. Yeah.
What about in the UK? What's the best time?
I've tried various things. I think sort of between 9 and 10 in the morning seems to work, beginning of the week. Later in the day, you think about it, what are you doing? I seem to grab people on the way to work, or they've sat down, they've opened their computer, having their first cup of coffee, cheekily checking Twitter, and that's the time when things come in. Towards the end of the day doesn't always work. End of the week is not as popular. But then if a story breaks, and the thing is, if you're somewhere where something's happening, you've got a picture of it, and you tweet it, it'll go crazy because you're at the point where no one else has access to that content. So yeah, it can never be a perfect time. Yes, question?
Do you know if there's any way that we could look to specific industries, like when's the best time to blog? So for instance, if you're in entertainment, like comedy or music or what have you, when would be the best time? Because you're talking from the perspective of tech, so from you understand more the business, but look from like other people.
Yeah, I guess looking at what you've spoken about, when do people like him in front of their screen? Is it because comedy and it's more of an evening, or when they come off a set, it's at 3 in the morning? I don't know. I would actually do some tests. I would actually send some content out at different times and have a clickable link on there and actually track when people are clicking it. And also, it might be that people have sort of catch up. I find often that I'll tweet something and then several hours later someone will click on it because maybe they don't have lots of followers and they're sort of coming into the Twitter stream and they've seen my bit of content because they've got only a few tweets to look at. Whereas other people that have lots of followers, it's going to whiz off the screen. So it's hard to get that perfect time. I would actually send some test tweets and see what response you get on the different content at different times. Yeah. So. Yeah, I try and keep mine under about 1,000 words, although the EE one went on and on and on because I had lots to talk about. Sometimes I'll break it up. The URL post, in fact, do a different example. I have one of my most popular posts is about saving money when you're travelling on data roaming. Whoops, wrong one, lc.tldr. I split it up into 2 posts because it was quite long. And what I did, here's part 1, I kind of let them wait for the next one. Okay, next week I'm going to blog about this. So you kind of split it up. That seems to work sometimes. Love images. I always try and do a blog post that leads with an image of some sort because that breaks it up. If I've got any content or any vision, I try and embed that in there. I don't like linking off to places. Most blogs now allow you to put content and video inside the blog post. So if I've got a video, I don't think I've got a video on this one, but I will actually embed the video in the actual site. While we're on video stuff, because we're running out of time, the 2 big ones, obviously YouTube, and the other one is Vimeo. I love Vimeo because I don't have lots of pictures of cats that I want people to watch on YouTube. I have professional content. I'm also able to tailor and craft my content on Vimeo much better than I can on YouTube. So for example, if I go to Keynotes, one of my blogs, there's a plugin, there's a bit of software you can add that actually pulls all of my videos from Vimeo off there and puts them into thumbnails. So things like that make it really, really easy. And when you actually go to the video, I have some control, let's just pick one at random, I have some control over what's on the title, I even have control over whether they can fast forward and those sort of things. So I find Vimeo from a professional point of view is probably better than YouTube, but if you have pictures of cats, chuck it on YouTube for reach. But Vimeo is great also at embedding things into sites. Any other questions? Yes?
You've been talking a lot about promoting your own brand.
Mm-hmm.
If someone is a business owner, how do you and you don't have time to be doing all of this for both yourself and the business, how do you sort of separate them? Are there certain media channels that are better for the business versus personal?
Yeah, good question about personal and your business brand. I kind of blend the 2 in together, so I don't deliberately say, well, that's a post about my business life and that's a post about personal. I'm lucky the industry I'm in is kind of very blurred, and so if I'm tweeting about meeting up for some friends at the hospital club or doing something with my daughter, it kind of makes sense, but sometimes you have to keep it separate. I'm also not a big fan of having too many Twitter accounts, so you might have a company Twitter account because that's the brand name and your own personal one, but I wouldn't have 4 or 5 because it becomes too messy. What I found works though is sometimes there are uni students who are just itching to write content and help run your Twitter feed for you. So it might be you can go to university and find someone who's a media student wanting to break into this and have them help manage that on your behalf. Because I think if you start a blog or a Twitter stream, you can't kind of let it wither and die. You've got to be constantly on there because that's your brand. If you go to your Twitter page and the last tweet was years ago, it's kind of embarrassing. And I won't name and shame some people, but people that are fairly high up in the tech community have tweeted 3 times in their life. That's really crazy to even have a Twitter page if you're going to do that. Yeah, good question though. Time for a couple more questions, then we'll go and have some drinks. Has this been useful? I've covered a whole lot of stuff. I'm just trying to randomly pick things that I've...
I've got a really embarrassing basic question.
No questions are embarrassing.
Your Facebook account with your Twitter account, so that when you put a Facebook status, it automatically releases...
The short answer is you don't, because the audiences are different. I used to have my Twitter stream linked to my Facebook, and my Facebook friends are going, what the hell are you doing? My view is there are 2 separate audiences. I actually post separately.
It's a business Facebook account.
I wouldn't be tweeting the same, because if you're... So you're going from Facebook to Twitter?
We've got a professional Twitter account.
Yep.
And a professional Facebook account.
Right.
Separate.
Yes.
Like a page that you like,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to become...
Yep.
And they should be connected because it's the same audience.
They should be connected, but I think... No, I disagree. I don't think the audience is the same. And also I think the mechanics of that, Twitter is 140 characters. By the way, everyone know why it's 140? Quick history lesson. When Twitter was launched, it was basically text messages on mobiles. Text messages are 160 characters long. That's a limit. What they said was 140 plus a nut name plus a few other things is your limit. So that's why it's 140 and it stayed like that. Facebook posts can be as long as you like, within reason. So I will disagree slightly. I think you've got 2 different audiences. And given you've got a sharp status update on Twitter, which is bang, versus here's some decent prose, I would actually... What I do is if I have a blog post... sometimes I automatically post the link to it, but if I want to expand on it, I'll actually sit down and type something. I think it is worthwhile curating the different audiences because Twitter gives you, almost crafting a tweet has got to be it's a headline. Whereas on your Facebook page, you can actually talk about it in more depth. So I wouldn't link them together. That maybe some people in the room disagree, but I think you've got 2 different audiences and you should treat them differently. Discovery Corner, finally a question from you guys.
Do you schedule your tweets?
No, I don't. I'm not a big fan of that for 2 reasons. One is I'm a human being, and if you're tweeting, it's really me. Secondly, I've seen a lot of people that hook up to websites like Tribe and others that just tweet random stuff, which is not their brand. I tried it a couple of times, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing it because if I've got something to say, I'll actually tweet it. I'll tweet it on my mobile when I'm walking along. So no, I don't schedule. If you see a tweet, it's from me. The only exception is if I'm doing a blog post, it automatically posts, so they are not scheduled, but they are automatically done through a website called Twitter feed. But apart from that, you won't see an automated tweet from me. Question?
Twitter is the human progress towards eventually reading people's minds.
Good question. That's a question of the night. What you're getting into there is what we call big data. So as a company, Cred, that I work for, we have been collecting every single tweet since November 2008. Any idea how many tweets we have? 150 billion. So I have 150 billion tweets over the last 4 years of everything that you've said, if it's public. The challenge is, to your point, you've got to have some human intelligence because the machine's going to do so much. So when it comes to finding influencers, I can give you a score, but if I'm influential in tech and you want someone to write about cooking, I'm useless. So I don't know that you can predict things. You can look at what people are trying to work out propensity scores. So if Andrew's spoken about an iPad and he's delivered a social media thing at the hospital club, what's his propensity to recommend something about something else? So people can make assumptions.
You can project what you're thinking. You don't have to say it. And it's a thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
More or less. More often than not, people tweet thoughts.
Yes. But I don't think I want to get there just yet. I actually like talking to people. This is why I'm here. I like the fact that Twitter can bring people together. And a lot of people I've met in real life, I've learned about them through Twitter and then I've met them. That's really rewarding. I don't think I want to get there just yet, though. Technically, you can probably do it. But I don't want to have a conversation and say, what do you think about it? I don't want to predict what you're thinking. In fact, what you're thinking about me right now is probably, I don't know what it's thinking. I don't want to know. Yeah.
This whole new language,
Yeah.
social language, like trending.
Yep. The thing is, 5 years ago, if you wanted to complain about a brand, what would you do? You would hopefully write a letter and hopefully the publisher would publish it, but oh, hang on, that's about a brand that we have a huge advertising contract with, so we won't publish that and it goes unnoticed. The fact I could tweet about EE with one tweet and really upset them and do all this stuff means that the consumer now has incredible power, and brands are realising that. And I predict that in a few years' time, it'll actually be me selling access to my feeds to a brand. I'll say for $100 a year, £100 a year, I will allow you to market to me, but only about what you sell and no one else. That's a complete shift. But it means that if you market to me, you're guaranteed that I'm going to be interested. The challenge today, and the reason that guy looked at my Facebook profile, and Virgin Media, I hate you, they send stuff through my letterbox to the occupier. Legally, they can get away with it. Royal Mail cannot stop it. So every 2 weeks, I get something through the letterbox to the occupier from Virgin Media about some new offer. You go online, no one can stop them. But there are other brands that have done that, and I've tweeted about it, and they've said, we're so sorry, we'll stop it. So the smaller the brand, they have more to lose. It seems like Virgin Media don't care. They can just keep sending crap through my letterbox, and I can't legally stop them, and that's okay. So, interesting. Another question.
Slightly off this question, but a couple of questions actually. But in terms of like, there's two. One is in the timing. A lot of us don't have all the time in the
Yes.
world, and you're suggesting not connect these. So, what would you suggest are the best ones to spend our time on, out of everything from like Facebook to Instagram and everything in between? And
Yep.
then also from that, what do you think is the future? Because I think there's a lot of discussion people are having at the moment, like, is Facebook going to be around much longer? Where is it going? So kind
Yep.
of your thoughts on that.
For me, Twitter and a blog are probably the ones I would spend time on because it's my own brand, my own thoughts, and I can publish that. Facebook is harder to get access to. Not everyone can see it because of the privacy settings. If you're going to spend any time, I would just be Twitter and a blog.